So, welcome to another episode of Simon Says. And Lara, we are here today. And I think one of the big news today is really, I think finally, US and Iran have signed their MOU.
Yep.
And I mean, we kind of did a couple of episodes on this, the closing of the Straits of Hormuz and etc. etc. And in fact, even in Malaysia, I mean, just not too long ago, Prime Minister went to Russia, right? And everyone was like wondering why. And in fact, he was very open. He said maybe we need to talk about buying more crude oil, right? And kind of like, Malaysia wants to buy from Iran, wants to buy from Russia, all those kind of play. But of course, that's another discussion for another day. Where do Malaysia wants to align? Because actually, this started with Mahathir, right? He doesn't want to align with the West and things like that. But the world is becoming more and more polarized, and even in Southeast Asia, we talk about it when Malaysia was ASEAN, the chairmanship, right? We talk about how ASEAN needs to position themselves.
Yeah, I mean, because generally, I think if he could actually, if Anwar Ibrahim is an opportunist, I would say that he should have utilized the chairmanship to really present ASEAN as a formidable bloc. Like, at least you get a good deals out of it. But then I think since the Liberation Day, every country within the ASEAN bloc is just doing their own thing, cutting their own deals with the United States. So it's like there cannot be like even more vast difference than that you could actually see.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons is really, ASEAN, basically every country, we kind of mentioned in our episode where the ASEAN members are actually competing against themselves. So they're all trying to, China is trying to dump steel on all the country. They're trying to sell rubber material, trying to sell semiconductor parts. So it's like everyone is doing the same thing. So you don't, and not surprised, but it's not easy. I mean, unless you want to go into EU level kind of thing, which is difficult because you're going to have to give out sovereignty and things like that. But since we're at this, I think it's a good way for us to kind of pivot into our discussion, because when we look at the whole Iran-America MOU, and one of the things, of course, we start to see a lot of tensions because you have the pro-Israel gangs, and then you have the neocons, the Mark Levine, Ted Cruz gang, and they are not the same, but so many people are coming from different reaction, right? All from one spectrum, accusing Trump of being a stooge to Netanyahu, then to all the other way and say that if you're MAGA, you shouldn't support Israel at all. But the truth of the fact of the matter is somewhere in between, right?
Yeah, I don't think Trump is like unconditionally supporting Israel, but the thing is, he definitely is very more like of a supporter, a friend to Israel, because I think he does believe that there should be basically the whole Abraham Accords. I mean, that's his biggest deal ever. And I think he really has that heart to see it succeed. So I think that's why there's a lot of criticism concerning how much US has been very pro-Israel, especially with the deal that they have cut with Hamas. I mean, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and things like that. And then now you begin to see that, actually he's also doing another deal with another MOU with Iran. So I feel like a lot of people are like, hey, we're not even really seeing a lot of phase 2 of how Hamas should be giving up their weapons and things like that. And now we are entering into yet another MOU. So how much of these are actually coming into realization? I suppose that's where people are a bit more apprehensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Joe Pollard who kind of mentioned that, look, reasonable criticism of the MOU is healthy. But of course, when you are trying to do like, they started off with a ceasefire and you want to have a firm deal. Remember, nobody could have any deal with Iran for 40 years. And the last deal by Obama was just I mean, for lack of a better word,
money.
yeah, you gave money without any performance and things like that. But when we look at the MOU and I mean, the full text is out. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of open-ended and things like that. But you were just saying, right, one of the things that triggered a lot of people was the 300 billion mentioned. Of course, the White House have kind of explained, look, this is contingent on Iran performing, allowing the nuclear program to be inspected, etc., etc. So, and the other thing, which is also, they are saying that this 300 billion is actually from sanction money. So which technically, now of course, when money is sanctioned, we say technically that means it originated from the sanctioned country. But when it is kind of like taken by authority, like for example, let's say a sum of money is kind of frozen and taken by a jurisdiction, by inland revenue in Malaysia, actually it belongs to government already most of the time. So so from that perspective, you can say, yeah, the US government has to pay, but strictly speaking, the origin is from Iran, and all these sanction money are in various Saudi system, Emirates system. Then the second thing, of course, they are saying that this 200 billion is for the infrastructure, which when you think about it, Trump coming from the very real estate kind of thing, oh yeah, we will use this to develop. And what do you mean by develop? Are we the owner? We will say, for example, if you tell somebody and say, I'm going to build a house and you all can use it. Yeah, you can use it, but I'm still the title deed owner. You can imagine that kind of thinking. So it's just, yeah, I'm not sure what's the big hoo-ha. But you have seen, I mean, we talk about Vice President Vance, right, kind of during the press conference. I mean, what do you make of that? Because there was some criticism on him.
Yeah, I think on that, actually, I'm a bit divided. Because personally, I felt like it's a bit divided. Maybe is a wrong word, but I'm a bit more conflicted in the sense that I felt like he was. I mean, because just before that, he went to the View. And then he became popular with the View ladies. but I felt like there is a certain posturing from his side that I felt like it's a bit, maybe a little bit tiny hint of like anti-war sort of posturing. So a bit like what Tucker Carlson, they are all advocating. So I think there is that part that I was not quite sure about Vance. But other than that, I do think the whole negotiation with Iran, I think that's the most pragmatic things that they could do at this juncture. And I felt like it is a good deal because, but I mean, basically Trump was just saying that, what do you want me to do? Like, you want me to drag them to the courts? I mean, which is not possible with the terrorists. But then I also read another part where some people are comparing Barack Obama and Trump. One basically used fear to basically, okay, I'm going to just give you money and hopefully you will stop your nuclear program. But the other one is basically just, we're going to try something different. We're going to just bomb the hell out of you and then we negotiate. So it's like it's coming from a different posturing, like the strength is being exerted.
Yep.
So, I mean, even Trump, during one of the press conference, he was also just saying that it's not a diplomatic negotiation here. It is a military win for them because no doubt they really, I mean, which other president has actually bombed the whole lot of the leadership in one night and then later on bomb the whole Air Force, naval attack and everything, and basically they lost all their capability in terms of the military. So it will take years to rebuild again. But the thing is, I think the world does need the oil, so he can't afford to have like a lot of the economy just reacting up and down. The stock market is just basically reacting to the tiniest news from the White House. So I felt like on that part, he's still very pragmatic.
Yeah, and I think what you say is absolutely correct, because some of the commentators were like saying, look, I mean on both sides, those who advocate for more destruction of Iran and those people who are saying, you shouldn't have gone in the first place. And both sides were trying to justify by saying that, look, we're back to square one, which I think is patently false and, for lack of a better word, it's just a simply dishonest assessment. Because what do you mean by everything is the same? I mean, Iran's military capability very much reduced, and you get the whole region fed up with this bully, and not to mention 40 to 50 of the top tier leaders are killed. So what do you mean by we're back to step one? We're not back to step one. There is something done which will, in short to medium term, they're not coming back anytime soon. I mean, if Iran could continue to drag on, they would drag on. And the fact that, yeah, of course, I think there was a lot of concession on US side. But the fact that Iran also did you read the Supreme Leader was saying that I've been briefed and I've been assured that our interests will be. So what do you mean by I assure you? Are you not making, you're making a decision, but are you not making the technical decision? But anyway, so they are pretty quick to come to sign also. Of course, a lot of people, the more pro-Israeli camp are saying that it won't last and things like that. Yeah, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But do you know that the Republican Party actually have their overseas branch?
I have no idea.
So this guy called Mark Zell, who is an Israeli citizen, and he is a vice president of the Republicans overseas. Okay, so anyway, he kind of mentioned something very interesting, because he said so many people kind of asked him all these things, and so he made a few points. First, he said, look, Trump has not flipped at all. And so I think that's one of the things that people don't understand about Trump is he is not an ideologue. He is different from PMX, for example, who is an ideologue when it comes to Palestine. So it's like very illogical kind of posturing. But Trump is not like that. Trump is more like, look, he pushed for Abraham Accord. He wants peace there. And if Iran is in a way or Israel is in a way, he will do the same. So he's not ideologue. Then of course, this guy, Mark Zell, he was just saying that, look, to understand the MOU, and I quote, he said, the MOU is only an agreement to negotiate and to maintain ceasefire for the time being. President Trump has all the cards and can determine how much he's willing to ease the US stranglehold on Iran and its proxies. So it's open-ended on both sides. So Iran can also say, I don't want to cooperate, and then we go back to square one in terms of let's end the ceasefire. But a lot of things have been kind of bombed already. Then of course the other thing about the MOU was one of the sticking point. I don't know if you've been reading, is why has Israel been excluded? Right. So this is his take. Mark Zell. He said President Trump excluded Israel from the MOU, which either by design or default gives Israel a free hand to protect its own national security interests in Lebanon, Syria, or even Iran. So basically, feel free to do whatever you want, but this is my deal. And in fact, I was just reading some of the people, they were saying that some people think that the whole rage between Trump and Netanyahu was manufactured. Have you heard that theory? It seems, yeah, because I think it was Glenn Greenwald, formerly of The Guardian, and he's very, very critical of war, very, very critical of Israel. And he was the one, and in fact, he was retweeted, re-asked many times by our PMS because of his very strong position against Israel. And he was saying that, look, a few months ago, somebody from, I think it was a top Israeli correspondent from Axios, and was like leaking out and say that Netanyahu and Trump was on very bad terms. And then the attack on Iran took place. So
just the optics.
He felt like there is some truth in that, but ultimately he concluded that only time and actions can show the truth, which won't be. I don't know. Trump doesn't appear to me to be that kind of person, but it won't be surprising the least to me if he does that.
That would be so interesting.
And the last point about this one by Mark Zell, and he said this, his personal opinion. I don't like the content of the MOU or the tone of certain statements from White House defending, so maybe referring to Vance, right? But that's politics in an election year. The bottom line is the relationship between Israel and US is strong, inviolable. Israel will protect its interests, and so will US protect the American public, including 750,000 US citizens in Israel. So that is his argument, which Yeah, you look at the market. I think generally the world likes the deal.
Yes. I think it's because at the end of the day, right, Trump is very much driven by economic success as well. I mean, he doesn't want like just 10% of the people that are actually being enriched through this whole thing, and yet the rest of the 90%. I mean, he basically mentioned that there could be a possibility the whole world is gonna go into like a depression, if this whole thing continues on. So I felt like he made an informed decision concerning this, and it's at the end of the day, he was the one who authorized fans to cut the deal.
Yeah, and of course he's not. Some people will be like, we cannot harm the economy at all costs, and this is where I think Trump is a bit different from some of the MAGA crowd, and they'll be like, are you seeing what's happening with the? They use the term gasoline, American term, right? But I felt like they don't really understand. I mean, he has a conviction. So for Iran not to have nuclear war is a conviction. So he is willing to use force. So that part of him, I think, rattle a lot of people, like rattle CCP, rattle the North Korean, and all the dictators around the world, because this is not. Remember during Obama's time when the whole embassy in Libya was kind of overrun, and special force people died, the assistant ambassador died. This kind of thing. Nobody in the world would dare to attack any American embassy right now under Trump. Nobody. Unless you want hell to be unleashed on you.
Yep.
So that's the thing that he has projected, peace through strength. So I felt like it's a good thing that he didn't let, he balanced this well, I think, and nobody else could do that. Even with the MOU, you can see like, maybe Rubio is not really happy about it. Maybe Vance doesn't want to get into that. So they're on different spectrum, but at the end, because somebody was saying that every now and then, this is maybe the weakness of Trump, right? That he so believes in himself, and probably you can call him a narcissist. And more than once, like during their cabinet or internal meeting, he'll be saying, look, I'm the president, I'm the one elected, which is true. And he has been given the power by the constitution to decide, you are all cabinet ministers advising me, but I make the final decision. I think that's leadership. That's real leadership.
I definitely agree.
And by the way, he's still fulfilling all the promises. So, every day he's still like saying, I'm going to deal with the voter fraud. I want to make sure the economy is strong. I want to bring manufacturing back. So he's still doing all these things in the midst of this Iran sidetrack. I don't know if you can even use that word.
I don't think it's a sidetrack. Because I read earlier on that because at the end of the day, I think his ultimate goal is China. So I feel like that part is still actually being unfolded as we even look at this whole thing. With Iran. So earlier on, before we knew it, with the ceasefire, suddenly he was like imposing blockade on the whole of Straits of Hormuz, and so it's just kind of interesting because you don't know what he is actually thinking. But there is also, his whole team. Scott Bessent, they are all very, very capable people who basically caused the Bank of England to just like having, the whole currency thingy just kind of like just blow out in the face. So I feel like at the end of the day, I think he's still kind of like after China.
Yeah. I think that's really, in fact, most of the MAGA crowd believes in that, but but that's the thing. If you don't take Iran out from that equation, you're always going to have to pay it. You have to put like a lot of assets there. So if you can take it off for now, then you have more resources to focus on the Pacific side.
Yeah, because also another thing that kind of like just came to my mind is also because what the Fed Reserve, the new chair, Kevin Walsh, he basically just kind of mentioned that, hey, from today onwards, the Fed is not going to be the ones that are dictating they're not gonna like release so frequently the news or anything like that will cause the market to go into a shock, or basically people are just trying to, the whole market is like so reactive towards any news from Fed. So I feel like there is a lot of change that is actually by the instruction of the president of United States.
Yeah. And of course, if we talk about before the Iran war, talking about from last year Liberation Day, leading up to almost the anniversary, the inflation was like an all-time low, and it's almost like the whole doom and gloom of the tariff, like that whole case study is thrown off. But now, of course, inflation went up. But of course, all these tariff doomer, they cannot say that it's due to tariff. It's not. It's due to the Iran war. So because of that, now of course now it's the next meeting for the Fed to decide the rate. And a lot of people felt like Wash may not, his hands might be tied in this round, even though Trump would really love to see the rates come down, but inflation still will be high because of the build out from the Iran war. So, but anyway, I think we can kind of wrap up today by looking at some of the response from Malaysia. And actually, I was just the first thing I kind of noticed is kind of muted locally.
Yeah.
But I kind of look at some opinion pieces in the more mainstream one, like the Star and things like that. Yeah, I mean, kind of like optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Then of course you have another one, I think. So this one is Political Secretary to Minister of Finance, Muhammad Kamil. He kind of gave some comments to New Straits Times and Bernama and said that he said the agreement can have positive impact on oil prices, because I think that's the main concern, right? What's the oil prices? Is it going to affect our subsidy? Are we still getting our 200 litre? I guess that's the real bread and butter issue that a lot of people are more concerned. I don't think people here. Yeah, I mean, of course, during Hamas time, people get more emotional about the boycott and things like that. But there's no one else left to boycott, right? I mean, you already boycotted Israel for so long. Surely you're not going to boycott US, right? You use so much of the American product. I don't think you can survive if you boycott, right? Even TikTok now officially belongs to what's the guy's name? Suddenly I can't remember. Ellison, I think he's the main shareholder now. The Oracle boss. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forgot that ByteDance already kind of like divest their shares. But anyway, so I just looking at that. Then of course you get some mainstream media kind of article. Initially, there's one by AFP, right? The French aggregator. I mean, they pick some random, not say random lah, Senator Cassidy from Louisiana. But it's kind of like nitpicking, right? Because I think one of the first poll coming out right after the deal was signed, I think a large majority of the American supported the deal. Because American is like, look, the gasoline cannot be more than 4. And I think that's something Trump really worked hard to bring it down. Everyone still remember, not everyone, I guess, it's like so long ago. It's like 40 plus years ago during the Carter's administration, remember? And people are like lining up at the petrol stations, and the petrol station said there's no more petrol.
Yeah.
And I think one of the government officials in Malaysia, I can't remember who already went, one of the deputy minister, I think, went to keluar sekejap. And he's like, saya jamin, I guarantee the oil will be enough until the end of July. So I'm like, and he said like in a very boisterous, bombastic, I'm like, is this something you're even proud of, that you can only last 2 more months? That's pathetic, man. So that's why, so I guess maybe a bit of a breather, but it doesn't solve our economy, right?
No, it doesn't. But yeah, I think some maybe we could also kind of like talk about the how Malay Mail was kind of like quoting Ben Shapiro.
Okay, yeah, you see what you say?
I mean, basically, they were saying that the Malay the criticism was actually, there's also some of the sharpest criticism, I quote from Malay Mail, of the MOU has involved reports that Trump administration has agreed to release frozen Iranian assets. So I think that was one of the main thing, and therefore they quoted this from Shapiro, because Shapiro is kind of like a well-known conservative voice, and yet, I mean, even Republicans were actually being, like a Republican supporter is also being critical of what Trump has cut in terms of this deal. So I feel like there's a lot of, I mean, if you don't follow the American political scene so much, or even follow like various sources of news concerning American politics, so I feel that's where people can get a bit confused. It's like
definitely with Shapiro, because like when it comes to cultural issue, he is a conservative, but then people forget that he is he is not a Jew, right? I mean he is. I mean he is he a Jew?
Yes, he is.
He is. So he okay. So I know he's a practicing Jew. So I'm not sure is it by membership or is it so he is. So that's why it's different, because the fact that he disagree with the MOU, it is more like a neocon kind of conservative, and Shapiro never presented himself as a neocon. So that's why it can be confusing, because people are changing their allegiance here and there. And so I mean, look at Tucker. Tucker is one of the best example, like how he has totally shifted, like he in fact he is like so anti-MAGA now. I mean, people kept on saying that he has influence. Well, maybe you have. So show it at the ballot. But he is totally against what MAGA is doing right now, and he is like very, very against Israel also. So what do you think? I mean, we it's probably a separate topic, right? But your point about how unless you get into the nitty-gritty detail of the dynamics of the American politics, it's very easy to just like have broad brushes, and I guess it's the same for every country unless you pay attention to their system. But do you see any similarity, like a lot of the established paradigm are being fractured, what is conservative, what is big government, what is small government, is all being challenged, and it's the same thing for Malaysia also, right? A lot of things are changing.
Yeah, most definitely. I think ever since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I mean, the conservative movement couldn't be more fractured, if you will, because there are certain voices that kind of like they were jumping on the bandwagon of Tucker Carlson before he has really, really gone like cuckoo. But then you also have like a voice like Ben Shapiro that is like becoming more and more prominent, and I don't think he's like a neocon, but he's definitely more critical of Trump because of his libertarian posts. And I mean he definitely was very critical about Liberation Day, but then again he was very, very supportive of this whole US with Iran posture. I mean, he felt like the military strength that was demonstrated is like excellent.
But he's not quite happy with the exit now.
Correct, because I mean, even just like a couple of months ago, he was just basically saying that Trump should just go all in, like literally no boots on the ground, but yet they should just bomb the hell out of Iran. So I think that was his posture earlier on, and he felt like the ceasefire shouldn't have been done in the first place, because he's more of the camp where you just finish off the job and come back.
Who is paying for that?
Exactly. So I feel like there's that part of him that I guess he understands that Israel was being given the right to defend, but there is also the posture where I think there is genuine, I guess like just kind of like piss off with the whole Iranian bullying, the whole, basically the whole terrorist posturing. I think it's like 40 years. It's like people are basically just sick of this whole thing, and he felt like because we are there in the first place to just wipe off a regime that is basically killing a lot of Christians, and he should just finish off the job. So I feel like there's that part of him that has yet to come to a full reconciliation. But to coin him together as neocon, I think that is pretty unfair sort of
Yeah,
statement.
I don't think he's neocon, but it's just by his posture. But I mean, like what we said earlier in the show, it is unrealistic because at the end of the day, I mean, any politician, including Trump, is beholden to the voters. I mean, it's just maybe in Malaysia we're so used to politicians printing money, and also politicians not fulfilling their promises. Here we have a president who fulfilled most of his promises, but I think with Iran war, it's almost like a personal kind of conviction that it needs to be done. But and someone was commenting, right? If the rest of the Western world, talking about NATO and all those people, if they really supported Trump, I think Iran would have been finished off. But they were the ones not wanting to help and things like that. Hey, this is happening at your backyard. You know, who is suffering from the closure of the straits? I mean, of course, America will suffer because of the global war price, which even as they continue to pump out the petrol, drill, baby drill, you cannot compensate for that. But you talk about the rest of Europe, it's like they are drying dead. And so sometimes I look at Europe, I just don't know what they're thinking. You know, they are like dead men walking and still don't realize they are dying. But anyway, that's I mean, I think one of these episodes we should talk about. I remember we were saying that Tony Blair not too long ago was giving some advice to Stammer and say, you know, please look at your own backyard before you are such a busybody. Kind of like a reminder to our Prime Minister.
Indeed.
But anyway, I think we kind of cover a lot of grounds. In fact, I wanted to maybe we'll leave that for the next episode, because this is a topic that is very, it will always have a recurring theme. You know, why people continue to be so deranged when it comes to everything related to Trump. So maybe when it comes nearer to the end of World Cup, I don't know if you heard about it, that I mean, they say FIFA is just basically bending their backward to accommodate Trump. And apparently it was reported that he wants to give out the trophy and he wants to celebrate, and FIFA has green-lighted. I mean, he is a sports fan. You know, he went to watch NBA. Did you read NBA became the first, New York Knicks became the first NBA team in his 2 term to visit White House, because all the basketball team were like so woke and don't want to go to White House.
Yeah.
But Doolin, of course, the Knicks owner, personal friend of Trump for 30 years. And if the owner say you have to go, right?
Yes, indeed.
Your boss say you have to go, you better show your face. But he's a true, I mean, he's a New Yorker and things like that. So, but anyway, that's the one part we mentioned. He has a need to be recognized, and that's his strength and his downfall. But we probably can talk about that in another episode, because probably we want to get some external view also, because maybe we are a bit kind of biased when it comes to Trump. So why people still have this kind of I mean, how many times the person needs to prove to you that he can do the job, right? But anyway, so I think we kind of run out of time already, so maybe until next time.
Sure.
Okay, bye-bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye.